Ever feel like, life is just like throwing you these curveballs that you just did not see coming? Well, today's deep dive, I think it's for you. We are going deep, cracking open this ancient piece of wisdom, and it's going to sound kind of weird, but stick with me. The Book of Job.
And not just like the feel-good stuff. We're talking about the really tough stuff, loss, doubt, questioning everything, the stuff that really makes you think.
Exactly. And that's why this whole story of Job is still important thousands of years later, right? Because who hasn't been there? Who hasn't just been like, why is this happening?
Yeah, and the Book of Job, it doesn't shy away from that. It just dives right in.
Okay, so like quick recap for anyone who hasn't cracked open this book in a while. Job, he's this righteous dude, lives this seemingly perfect life. I mean, flocks of sheep, a family, the whole nine yards.
Mm-hmm.
But it's deeper than that, right? He's actually a good guy, like someone who walks the walk when it comes to faith.
Totally. The text really emphasizes that this isn't just a lucky guy. He's blameless, upright. He feared God and shunned evil. Like the text literally says that.
Which makes what happens next even crazier. It's like, bam, everything just gets ripped away. Fortune,
Yeah.
family, health, everything. And it gets really intense with the details.
Yeah, and the way it's written, it's not just a lot of bad things happening. You really feel what Job is going through emotionally. It's intense.
It kind of makes you wonder how you would react in that situation, right?
Yeah.
Most of us have had those moments where we feel like something's been ripped away or we experience a loss.
That's why this story is so powerful. It's not just about one unfortunate guy. It's about how we deal with suffering as humans, because it happens to all of us.
And man, Job, he really goes through it. He's angry, he's upset, he's questioning everything.
I think that's part of what makes the Book of Job so different, so real. You
Hmm.
have this guy who everyone thinks is so righteous, a model for faith, and he's not afraid to show his anger, his doubt, all of it.
It's like he's giving us permission to do the same.
Yeah.
It's okay to not have the answers, to struggle with those big questions, and just be real with ourselves and with God about how we're feeling.
Totally. That's why we can still relate to his story, because we've all been there, right? Questioning things, especially when life gets hard.
It's so easy to pretend everything's okay, put on a brave face. But Job shows us it's okay to not be okay, to struggle, to question, to be angry at what's happened. It's human.
And it gets even more interesting because it's not just about Job and what he's going through, it's about the people around him and how they react to his suffering. And, well, it gets very interesting very fast.
Yeah, his friends, they seem so well-intentioned at first, coming to comfort and support him. They even just sit with him in silence for like 7 days, just being there for his grief.
Sometimes that's the best thing you can do, right? Just be there with someone when they're hurting. Just be present with them and not trying to fix things.
For sure. But then they start giving advice, and that's when things take a turn.
Yeah, they start trying to find a reason for his suffering, trying to make sense of it all.
Like, you must have done something to deserve this, or everything happens for a reason. Those things people say.
Exactly. The book shows how we as humans try to find simple answers for things that are really complex, which happens all the time. Someone's struggling and we want to offer solutions, explanations, anything to try and make sense of it.
Yeah, and I've totally been there on the receiving end of that. It can feel like people are dismissing your pain, even if they don't mean to. So if simple answers aren't the answer, then what is? How do we deal with suffering in ourselves and in others in a way that's real and actually helps?
That's the big question, right? And the book, it doesn't give us an easy answer. It makes us think about that question. It makes us sit with the unknown, the not knowing.
Which, let's be honest, is way harder than just giving a simple answer. But maybe that's where the real learning happens for everyone involved. It's interesting, though. It's not like Job is condemned for his emotions. In fact, it's kind of like the story validates his feelings. It acknowledges that pain, doubt, and anger are all real responses to suffering.
You're right. It's a powerful message, especially in a world that often pressures us to put on a brave face and hide how we really feel. Job's story gives us permission to be real with ourselves, to allow ourselves to feel everything, even the hard stuff, and not be afraid to wrestle with those feelings.
It's like a reminder that faith isn't about ignoring our emotions, but about acknowledging them, bringing them to God, and ultimately finding strength in something bigger than ourselves, even amidst those emotions.
Mm.
And that's where the story really gets interesting, because even though Job is going through all this, he never completely loses his faith.
Absolutely. Even in the midst of his pain, his anger, his questioning, he maintains a deep sense that there's something bigger at work, like a purpose that he doesn't understand right now. And isn't that a longing many of us share, especially when life throws us curveballs? That yearning for answers, for explanations, for some deeper understanding of why we go through difficult times?
It's almost like he gives voice to that universal human experience. We all want to understand, to know the why behind our suffering. And that's where the story takes another intriguing turn because, as we know, Job eventually gets an audience with God.
And it's a dramatic encounter. God appears in a whirlwind, a powerful symbol of his might and mystery. You'd think after all this time, Job would finally get the answers he's been searching for.
You'd think. But what's fascinating is that God doesn't give Job, or us as readers, those easy answers.
Instead, God essentially reminds Job and us of the vastness of creation, the intricate workings of the natural world. He asks Job a series of rhetorical questions about things Job couldn't possibly know the answers to.
It's like God is saying, look, you're a tiny part of something much, much bigger.
Exactly. And while it might not be the satisfying explanation Job was hoping for, I think there's a profound message in there about the limits of human understanding. It's not about blind faith, it's about accepting that there are some things we may never fully comprehend.
Okay, so how does that bring us comfort, especially when we're in the middle of some kind of personal whirlwind?
Well, I think it points to a truth that many spiritual seekers have discovered throughout the ages. Sometimes comfort comes not from getting all the answers, but from accepting the mystery. It's about trusting that even if we don't understand why things happen the way they do, there's a larger purpose at play.
It's about having faith in the process, even when it doesn't make sense to us, which honestly can be a pretty tall order sometimes.
It definitely can. But what's amazing about Job is that ultimately he accepts this. He comes to a place of peace, not because he finally understands everything, but because he surrenders to the mystery.
And what's even more amazing is that in that surrender, in that acceptance of what he doesn't know, he finds healing and restoration.
And not just any restoration. God blesses Job in the end with even more wealth, a new family, and a long life.
Almost like a reward for his faithfulness, his willingness to wrestle with the tough questions without losing sight of his faith. It's like he goes through something horrible, and he comes out with this, I don't know, stronger faith. Less about knowing everything and more about just accepting what is.
Yeah, not resignation, but like a deep trust that there's something bigger going on, even if we don't get it.
And I think for a lot of us, when we're in that place of, why me? It's kind of comforting to remember that even Job, who is supposed to be so righteous, he gets to yell at the sky, like literally ask for answers.
Right. It's not like those old paintings where everyone's just like silently accepting their fate. Job shows us that it's human to struggle to try and find meaning when things are just chaos.
So it sounds like we're not supposed to walk away with some easy answer. But then, what are we supposed to take away from Job's story? Like, how do we apply it to our own lives today?
It's not so much about one specific lesson, it's more about the overall message. Like, yeah, bad things are going to happen. We're going to face loss, doubt, those moments that just shake us up.
Which, let's be real, that's life,
Yeah.
right? But it's what Job does with those experiences that really makes you think.
He's angry, he even questions his faith. But through it all, he never lets go of this idea that there's something bigger than himself.
And by holding on, even when it's really hard, that's where he finds his strength and hope.
Yeah, and I think the story is telling us it's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay to not have a perfect answer to why things happen.
So the next time you're going through something really tough, just remember Job. It's okay to feel everything. The anger, the confusion, the doubt.
Those feelings, they don't mean you're not faithful. If anything, they can make your faith stronger.
Maybe the questions we don't have answers to, maybe those are actually good for us. They make us think harder. They make us grow.
It's about being okay with not knowing everything. And maybe in that space, we find a new way of looking at things, at ourselves, even at our faith.
So to wrap things up, think about this. What are you wrestling with right now? Those big questions you just don't have answers to. And how could looking at them through Job's story maybe bring some peace, even a little bit, in the middle of all the chaos? Keep those questions in mind and keep diving deeper, everyone.